Okay, so how's it going, everyone? It's Harvey from Weather Sponge 5000. As this is the first time I'm doing a live stream talking about the weather. I've done prior live streams before when it comes to just me and the webcam, but now I'm gonna start doing live streams for you guys. I'm gonna help ask you for you guys to ask any questions you'd like, especially when it comes to your forecast, when it comes to your civic location. I know many people are wondering about that, and sometimes I'm not able to touch on it in my videos. So there's a way for you guys to ask me any questions regarding the forecast, the weather, or just really anything about myself in general. So, and there's a way to engage with you guys as well, because I do also want to talk with you guys during the live stream. So there's a great way for us to interact as well. So I'm going to begin with my forecast, and feel free to ask any questions. I wish there was a way to see the chat while I'm going live, but anyways, I'm gonna go with the forecast and then periodically go from chat and back to the stream. Let me first see if as this is the first time. Okay, I just want to make sure the volume was there, so that's good. Let me see if there's a way I could see pop out chat. Perfect. This is exactly what I need. So I'll keep it in the corner of the screen. Okay, so okay, I hope I'm not lagging here. Okay, so need to fix some stuff with the live stream. I do apologize if there's any major problems with this live stream. This is yeah, this is my first time doing this, so it won't be perfect. So I do apologize in advance for anything, but yeah, let me let me actually raise the bit rate here, because apparently it's a bit too let me see right here. Oh yeah, settings, and then okay, I applied that, so hopefully that works. Okay, so all right, so let's begin with this forecast. So let's first take a look at the European model at this time. Let me also open the chat window in case you guys have any sort of questions. I'll be able to read it during the live stream. So let's begin. Here's the European model at this time, and as you can see, it's fairly quiet. And we were talking about that possibility of potentially a winter storm moving through the Midwest by the time we approach Friday. And at this point, it's becoming more increasingly likely that we're gonna see this develop. So yeah, let me zoom this out so I could also see the pop-up chat. So okay, here it is, and let me see. Okay, so here we go. So here's the European model at this time, and up with for the snowplows, because it's gonna definitely be very, very impactful with snowfall rates that heavy. So in right around western Kansas, going into western Oklahoma and northwestern Texas, this is where you should expect mainly an area right around 1 to 3 inches of snowfall. So you definitely need to be prepared for that in those areas. And the forecast is very likely. We have both the European model and the GFS model showing a high amount of agreement regarding the amount of snowfall that we're going to see right over this area, and then even going into the northern Midwest, where we should see this winter storm become more powerful thanks to a higher amount of instability. So in terms of the exact amount of snowfall you should expect, let's actually take a look at the precipitation portal when it comes to how much snowfall accumulation you should expect for the Midwest thanks to this winter storm. So if we were to zoom out into the United States, for western Oklahoma, like I said, a good area right around 1 to 3 inches of snowfall. Now, of course, this isn't including all the snowfall, but because eventually because this storm system goes beyond the Saturday night time frame, which is the maximum forecast time period where the snowfall forecasts last. So I expect these snowfall totals right around Wisconsin to be a little bit higher than this. Milwaukee, you might experience anywhere between definitely over 3 inches of snowfall out of this based on what the current guidance from the computer models are stating at this time. So you definitely need to be prepared for impacts for much of the Midwest. And in terms of the chance we could see that snowfall move southward into Chicago, it's a little bit less likely at this time. Maybe you receive a trace of snowfall right around the Chicago area, but it's definitely but however, the rain snow line is relatively close to you guys, so I wouldn't rule out maybe receiving an inch of snowfall, but most likely it'll be a rain event for the Chicago area, as it seems like there's a little bit too much warm air, and the certainty is getting high with this storm. We're less than 3 days out at this time before this snowfall impacts you guys right around Wisconsin and northern Illinois. So you definitely need to be aware of that in those areas. And and right around Kansas City, you should expect maybe around an inch of snowfall as well. Let's take a look back at the precipitation forecasts over the next 72 hours. So mainly around a trace of snowfall for much of northern Missouri, going into much of Kansas, but it does become heavier, like I said, for western Oklahoma, Kansas, where you should expect 1 to 3 inches of snowfall. And then it becomes interesting for Denver as well, where you're right on the border between experiencing heavy snowfall in the higher elevations to only maybe around 2 inches of snowfall just a little bit further northward. So that's something you need to be aware of in those areas. Now, in terms of the by the way, guys, if you're watching, feel free to ask any questions regarding anything for these next few winter storms. So definitely be aware of that. So definitely stay tuned for that in those areas. In fact, let me find a way where I could have a pop-up chat in case anyone wants to show up or ask any questions. I could read it like pop out chat. So I like the pop out chat, but anytime I click anything else, it just disappears, which that does get annoying. Like this. So here's a pop out chat. And so yeah, bear with me, guys. This is my first time doing the live stream. I do apologize. The next few ones should go a little bit more smoothly than this. But okay, here we go. I see the pop-up chat now, and yeah, it'll stay like that for a while. Let me just make this smaller so it doesn't take, so I could see everything when it comes to the chat. Okay, perfect. So, yeah, let me. Okay, so now back to the computer model. So like I said, this winter storm should be weaker than anticipated. However, for those in Northeast are probably wondering what will happen beyond that point, beyond this winter storm in the Midwest, because I was talking about in my previous video the possibility of a winter storm developing by the time we approach the 14th and 15th time frame for portions of the Northeast, which would have brought heavy snowfall to New York City, much of New Jersey, Philadelphia, Boston. However, it seems like both the computer models are they're still on good agreement regarding the fact that there's going to be a significant jet stream dip by the time we approach the 15th, which could induce that possibility of a winter storm. However, they're not necessarily confident that it will actually produce this winter storm. So taking a look a little bit more forward, so here's where we're at right around the 15th. We clearly see a significant jet stream dip induced by a cold front that's moving through. And for much of the Northeast and going into the East Coast, we see mainly a rain event, but a significant jet stream dip. So the key question is, will this jet stream dip induce enough instability to bring heavy snowfall over the Northeast? I'll keep you guys updated once we get more updates, but what I could say confidently is that for places like Maryland, Baltimore, Washington, D.C., you should expect much cooler than average conditions again by the time we approach January 15th. This is a stark contrast to what we're going to experience over the next few days, where we see the jet streams very high up. This will lead to much warmer than average temperatures in terms of how much warmer than average in terms of the temperature anomaly. Look at by early tomorrow, or pretty much the entirety of tomorrow, we're seeing temperatures that are anywhere between 10 to 15 degrees above average for much of the Midwest. This includes places like Louisville, Kentucky. This includes Chicago, Indianapolis, much of Ohio, much of Michigan, and of course the Northeast, where New York City are experiencing temperatures anywhere between 5 to 10 degrees above average. Same goes for Boston, and for much of the Southeast as well, going as far south as Mississippi, Arkansas, Louisiana, Oklahoma. That's expected to continue until this jet stream dip moves through, where we eventually will see cooler than average temperatures move into the Southeast, where by the time we approach the 11th through the 12th of January, for much of the Southeast, temperatures should hover anywhere between 5 to 10 degrees below average. So places like Atlanta, Alabama, you need to be prepared for this. And then, of course, this next jet stream dip will bring temperatures closer to below average for the Northeast by the time we approach January 15th. And with this much instability, you could count on at least that possibility of a winter storm developing. So keep that in mind in those areas. So there is still that possibility of a winter storm, but I'll keep you guys updated once we get a bit more certainty with the forecast. Now, going further back, let's move a little bit beyond this winter storm. So continuing to move forward, we see that there's that jet stream dip that this low pressure system inducing, which is expected to bring temperatures anywhere between 5 to 10 degrees below average for Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, and Texas. But continuing to move forward with the forecast, we see the next potential winter storm by the time we, like I said, January 15th. Right now, it'll be a rain event for New York City, Connecticut, Boston. But when a forecast is this far out, you can't disregard anything. So keep that in mind in those areas. But let's take a look at the current radar right now to see exactly what's going on, give you guys a more in-detail forecast regarding your specific location at this time being, which is the beauty of live streams. I could go over stuff that's happening right now at this point. So let's take a look at that. So let's zoom out a little bit. And here's the entirety of the United States. We do have rainfall going on over much of New Mexico. Heavier rainfall in some areas. Zooming in, it's approaching Fort Summer at this time. Santa Rosa, you should expect a heavier amount of rainfall. I don't necessarily think this will be heavy enough or move slowly enough to cause flash flooding, but it will definitely create for some slick road conditions. And in terms of other areas into Albuquerque and Santa Fe, Santa Fe might experience a little bit of snowfall out of this. If we were to take a look at the Futurecast radar, it won't be a ton of snowfall. And for Albuquerque, it seems like it'll primarily be more of a rain event for you guys. You guys are a little bit more in the lower elevations, but in the higher elevations going into Grants, New Mexico, and Los Alamos in New Mexico, this is where you should expect a higher possibility of snowfall in those higher elevations. So in those areas, watch out for slick road conditions. Zooming out a little bit more, if this were to hopefully there we go. So and then moving into the Pacific Northwest, going into Portland right now, you're experiencing rainfall, as it's gonna stay slick, very rainy and dreary like this over the next few days, as we do have a trough that's expected to move through, continuing to move forward. This will continue into Thursday. It'll be less prominent, the rain showers, but it'll just overall be very dreary for the Portland and Seattle area of the Pacific Northwest. And of course, this trough is expected to lead to our next winter storm for much of the Midwest. So in those areas, be prepared for a good amount of snowfall. In terms of the Futurecast radar, to show you guys when you should expect impacts throughout Michigan, throughout much of the Midwest, let's take a look at that right now. So here we go, going into the NAM model, the NAM model. So taking a look at that right now, like I said, it's going to be very rainy, very dreary right over New Mexico, but it's going to encounter a higher amount of instability. So by the 4 a.m. time frame for northwestern Texas, you should mainly expect bouts of rain showers. They won't necessarily be very heavy, but definitely at least something to keep in mind. Make sure to take out those umbrellas during the morning time, because it'll definitely be you'll definitely see a lot of on and off showers right over northwestern Texas. Then by 7 a.m. we see that the area of rain showers become more consolidated. This is where you should expect heavier bouts of rainfall over Oklahoma. While I don't necessarily expect these thunderstorms to necessarily be severe, they should definitely cause some slick road conditions, and who knows, maybe there could be that slight localized possibility of flash flooding over portions of Oklahoma, going into Lawton, going into Oklahoma City, and of course into much of western and northern Oklahoma in general. You should expect those heavier bouts of rain showers, and by 7 a.m. as well, we see the rain move into Kansas. They'll be a little bit lighter than what you're seeing in Oklahoma, at least during the morning time, because there just isn't as much instability or thunder shower activity that far north, but it definitely will create for some slick road conditions, and we should eventually see that rainfall become fairly heavy for the northeastern portion of Oklahoma and going into southern Kansas as well. And then going into Colorado, like I mentioned, Denver, you should mainly experience right around light to moderate snowfall. For the most part, it should move in right around 7 a.m. the morning time tomorrow. So on Thursday, we see the rainfall will move northward into Iowa, heavier rainfall over Kansas City, and going into Nebraska and the Kansas area as well. And then we do see our first area of snowfall really develop once this area of precipitation encounters that cooler air mass, where southwestern Nebraska and northwestern Kansas should see a decent amount of snowfall out of this, probably around 1 to 3 inches of snowfall out of this small area of snowfall, as snowfall could fall at a fairly fast clip for those areas, because like I said, there are heavier bouts of precipitation associated with this storm system. However, the thing that will limit the snowfall is that it's still a relatively small area of snowfall. And then going into 4 p.m., we see the snowfall extend northward into Nebraska. So central Nebraska should experience right around 1 to 3 inches of snowfall, while for Iowa, you should expect heavy rain out of this. So make sure to be prepared in those areas for slick road conditions and for that small localized chance of flash flooding. So definitely be aware of that in those areas. So okay, so by the way, if you're watching this, make sure Feel free to ask any questions regarding the forecast for your specific location, or just anything weather related, or anything in general. It doesn't have to be weather related, anything about me as well. Feel free to ask anything, any questions you have, because I do want to give you guys the most accurate and detailed forecast possible. So I'm continuing to move forward by 7 p.m. on Thursday. Like I said, expect heavy rainfall for Wisconsin, southeastern Minnesota. You should expect heavy rainfall out of this. In terms of how much rainfall, you should expect anywhere around 1 to 2 inches of rainfall. So there is that small possibility of localized flash flooding. In fact, let's take a look at some of the maps to show you guys exactly how much rainfall you should expect over the next few days. So taking a look at that. So here's the forecasted rainfall. And we see a large area of 1 to 2 inches of rainfall for Des Moines going into over the next 5 days, going into Wisconsin as well. Madison, you should expect 1 to 2 inches of rainfall out of this next storm system moving through, and going into Kansas City as well. Much of eastern Kansas, western Missouri, even as far north as Omaha, maybe you could experience around an inch of rain. So while this isn't necessarily enough to bring major river flooding, the fact that this rainfall will fall at a very fast clip does raise the concern for flash flooding, so definitely be aware of that in these areas. Now, going back into the Futurecast radar, where is, okay, it's right here. So now into 10 p.m. the rainfall should continue for Chicago. The heavy rainfall should move into Green Bay, Wisconsin as well, and the snowfall should move into western Iowa as well, and even Omaha could get a tracing of snowfall out of this. So you should expect anywhere between a tracing to maybe up to an inch of snowfall for western Iowa, so keep that in mind in those areas. And then maybe as far east as Des Moines, on the backside of this storm system, you could expect a tracing of snowfall out of this. So keep that in mind over the next over the next 2 days for much of the Midwest, including for heavy rainfall as well as snowfall in those areas. So definitely keep that in mind. Let's go back into the computer models forecast. So let's take a look at what both the computer models are forecasting when it comes to snowfall. So let's first take a look at the GFS model. So in terms of the GFS model's forecasts, this is assuming 1 inch of precipitable rainfall equates to 10 inches of snowfall. A good area of 3 to 5 inches of snowfall, but I do think this is a little bit over exaggerated in the GFS model scenario. If we were to take a look at the forecast provided for the National Weather Service, it should be more like 1 to 3 for much of eastern Kansas and going into northwestern Oklahoma and going into northwestern Texas. Zooming into some of the towns, Garden City should expect anywhere between 1 to 3 inches of snowfall. Dodge City, Kansas should expect around 1 to 3 inches of snowfall. And then continuing to move forward into Boise City, Oklahoma, you should expect anywhere between 3 to 5 inches in that area. And then going as far south as Amarillo, Texas, maybe you should expect a tracing of snowfall anywhere between a tracing to an inch of snow right around Amarillo. It doesn't seem likely you're going to receive significant snowfall out of this. The forecast is getting certain between 2 computer models, so I wouldn't expect much in that area. And then going into more so northeastern Kansas, so going into Manhattan, we do see that you should expect right around tracing. Same goes for Kansas City, and then Des Moines, Iowa, maybe a tracing at best, or maybe no snowfall accumulation in Des Moines. Could be certainly the possibility. And now going into Wisconsin, this forecast doesn't go as far to show the exact true amount of snowfall for Wisconsin should expect out of this next winter storm that should move through right around Saturday evening into Sunday morning. But as of right now, you should expect a little bit more than 3 inches of snowfall right around the Milwaukee area, or a little bit north of Milwaukee, going into West Bend, Watertown, as well as Green Bay, Wisconsin. You should expect significant snowfall. And then The highest snowfall should actually be right around northern Michigan, where you could expect between next 72 hours, right around 3 to 5 inches of snow. So definitely keep that in mind in all of these areas when it comes to snowfall. So let me see if this stream is still going good. So, okay, so it's still going good. This is my first live stream, so I'm testing everything out. Bear with me. But again, if anyone's in here, feel free to ask any questions, and I'll make sure to give you guys the most in detail forecast regarding what you should expect over the next few days. Now let's talk about the temperature, temperature forecast for the United States over the next few days. And to do that, let's take a look at the Climate Prediction Center's forecasts. So taking a quick look at that. So when it comes to 8 to 14 day temperature outlook, this is valid between January 15th and January 21st. So, like I said, there is expected to be a jet stream dip that could induce that possibility of a northeast winter storm. It's still too early to say if that'll occur, but whenever we see a jet stream dip as significant as this one, I'll show you right now. So here's the jet stream dip the European model is forecasting. Very significant. This would be able to gain a high amount of instability, but the key thing that's limiting this storm system from bringing a significant winter storm for Northeast is the fact that we see that this winter storm does develops a little bit too far to the north, and this jet stream dip doesn't happen early enough for this storm system to consolidate a little bit closer to the coast. As by the time this jet stream dip becomes strong enough, this low pressure system is well to the north. So if you want to see heavy snowfall for places like New York City, going into Philadelphia, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, we're going to need to see a little bit more of a stronger amount of ridging that would force the low pressure system a little bit closer to the coast. That would slow the storm system down so it doesn't race off into northeast. And that still has yet to be seen at this time. As of right now, it should be a rain event for Boston, Connecticut, Rhode Island, New York City, New Jersey. When a forecast is this far out, there's a lot that could change. And when we take a look at the GFS model, again, it's fairly similar. So you definitely need to keep that in mind right around those areas. But they're both agreeing at least on that possibility of a significant jet stream dip in these areas. So I will say, if you're hoping for that possibility of snowfall in the northeastern next major winter storm, this will be the chance for that to happen right around Thursday, January 15th to Friday, January 16th, when we see a significant jet stream dip like this. I'll certainly keep you guys updated. As of right now, the most likely scenario is a rain event for those coastal northeast cities, but don't rule out that possibility when we're talking of a snowstorm, when we're talking about a forecast that's still so far out. And in terms of beyond that point, the GFS model is more aggressive, taking much more cooler than average temperatures for the northeast and extreme northern Midwest, as there's going to be a multitude of clipper systems moving through, bringing a stronger northwesterly flow before we see a pretty impactful winter storm develop. But this is so far in the long-term future, it's best to not even entertain a storm like this. But just know a higher possibility of snowfall could happen by the time we approach January 14th and 15th for much of the East Coast. So definitely keep that in mind in those areas. But back to the temperature forecast. I know I went on a little tangent right there, but here's the temperature forecast, 8 to 14 days. Below average temperatures are expected for the Midwest, most likely, for at least the Great Lakes region, and above average temperatures for much of the Pacific coast, which is expected when we see a pattern like this. Typically, when it's cooler than average in the eastern United States, it's simply warmer than average in the western portion of the United States, and of course drier than average. And there's a higher amount of precipitation as well expected for the Midwest, anywhere between January 15th and 21st, and there is that higher possibility as well for much of the Southeast. So definitely keep in mind for that possibility of maybe severe weather, or at least just general rain showers, as a higher probability by the time we approach a week of January 15th and 21st for much of the Southeast. So continuing to move forward, let's go into the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook. And as expected, warmer than average for much of the United States, as it seems like the jet stream is going to be very relegated far north. We're seeing a strong amount of ridging for much of the United States, so that'll keep temperatures at least over the next 10 days warmer than average for the most part. So definitely keep that in mind. And if you're not a fan of the snow necessarily, this will be your time to potentially just enjoy that warmer temperatures, because I know for millions of Americans, it's been much cooler than normal. So this is definitely the time to really enjoy that warmth during the middle of January. So let me see the live stream real quick again. So anyways, guys, this is your chance to ask any questions regarding anything weather related, or it doesn't have to be weather related either. Feel free to ask anything. I'll make sure to answer it, give you guys the most in detail outlook regarding what you should expect for your specific location over the next few days. So feel free to ask me anything. But let's just keep taking a look at the computer model, see anything interesting that might pop up. Much of the Midwest, outside this Midwest snowstorm, it should be relatively quiet for the most part. For much of the United States, a big ridge right over this area. I'm here in northern New Jersey, so I'm hoping to see our next major winter storm. And like I said, that next possibility would happen anywhere between the 15th and the 16th. So hopefully we do see just enough ridging that builds just off the coast for that possibility of a significant winter storm to happen for the Northeast in general. So you should expect for Wisconsin going into Illinois, like I said, a good area of maybe 1 to 3 inches or 3 to 5 inches of snowfall for the eastern portion of Wisconsin, just north of Milwaukee. Chicago area, like I said, most likely the rain snow line will be to the north of you guys, but don't rule out the possibility of maybe a tracing on the backside. We still see the GFS model fairly aggressive when it comes to bringing snowfall to the Chicago area on the backside. But the GFS model tends to be a little bit aggressive when it comes to the exact area of snowfall. The European model is a little bit more accurate and has a higher resolution in general, which does make its forecast more precise when it comes to especially storms like this. So, and based on the European model scenario, the rain snow line is just north of Chicago, so that does limit the possibility of snowfall for that area. Detroit should mainly be a rain event, and then for the Northeast, it should be a rain event as well. So keep that in mind all throughout the United States. Okay, guys. So I guess that's it for this live stream. I do thank you guys for tuning in. This is my first time doing this. I hope to do more live streams like this to discuss with you guys, to give you guys the most in detail forecast possible. So make sure to stay tuned for more live streams in the future. And I hope you guys all have a great day. And I'll keep you guys updated for this next Midwest snowstorm that's going to move through by the time we approach a Friday time frame. So definitely keep that in mind. And I'll keep you guys updated if any other winter storm activity does develop in the United States over the next few days. But thank you guys for watching, and I hope you guys all have a great day.